Welcome to the live series Young for Your Age. I'm Rachel Tasker. I've yet to find a good description of what I am. I'm a personal trainer and a holistic mindset coach. But today's topic is the thing that you're really here for. And we're looking at the phrase, it doesn't take much to live better. Now, I don't mean to belittle anyone's efforts by that sentence. I just want to reassure you that it probably doesn't take as much as you think to feel better. And my intention today is to take you through 3 different points. So, why motivation follows action, what I mean when I say it doesn't take much, like what does not much look like, and then thirdly, the surprise. When you take the action, the surprise is real and worth noticing. So it's that kind of celebrating small wins that is really key and so important. So let's look at the first one, shall we? I've got a quote up here. Well, it's not a quote really. It's a fact. Newton's first law of motion, and it's meant to be an object, not an object at rest stays at rest. But let me stop sharing the screen for a moment because I just want to talk to you about what I mean. Okay, we're there. So let me first start. So motivation follows action. What do I mean by that? Often people will wait until they feel ready. They feel fit enough. They feel better. They feel inclined. Sometimes we don't think of it as motivation. We wait for that day when you're like, because we get those moments, don't we? Like, oh, I'll make a cup of tea, or do you know what? I'll just put the bins out now, and we just wait for those little moments when I get there, when I see the right exercise class, when I meet the right trainer, when the friend makes the right, when it feels right, I'll do it, which is human. I'm not belittling it or berating it. It's just the way we are. And when we experience pain, like really bad toothache, when you get insect bites that I'm currently suffering with, when you, what else causes pain? When you get that intense pain, you feel motivated and you'll do something about it because you don't want that pain to be there anymore. Someone with osteoarthritis or newly diagnosed with osteoarthritis, like the pain in joints then can be really uncomfortable, and you're sort of willing to do anything, give anything a try to help it along. But what happens when we don't have that pain, or when that pain, especially with chronic conditions like osteoarthritis, has become so everyday, not that we don't feel it anymore, but that we've lost the motivation about it. So how do we generate motivation when we're not faced with some real pain? And you're hearing me say it is to take action. It is to do the thing, whatever it is, and not wait for the moment to come. When we look at exercise, what happens is, whether it's been an exercise class, whether it's been gym, whether it's been a walk with a dog or a walk with a friend, no matter what it is, those first 5 minutes before we go, they're the lethal 5 minutes, aren't they? They're the bit where you find the excuses start coming in your head. Oh, it's a bit too hot. Or, it is too hot to do many things at the moment. Those excuses kind of, maybe I could just do it next week. Now's not quite the right time. I feel a bit uncomfortable, I haven't got the right shorts, or whatever it is. Sometimes it's like, have I got a headache? Maybe I shouldn't go. Those 5 minutes are sometimes cited as the hardest, like getting from where you are in your comfort zone, whatever that might look like, into your uncomfort zone of perhaps being in a gym or in a class or whatever. That is honestly the hardest. Once you're in and you're doing the action, so many times people will say, oh my God, it's not as bad as I thought, or, oh, this is really all right. It's like so many times it happens. speak to any of your exercise friends and they'll tell you it's just and you just, in the end, once you've been doing it, you just ignore that voice and you just becomes a routine. And that's what we're all looking for and waiting for and hoping for. But unfortunately, it doesn't become routine without us taking action towards it. Also, when we take the action towards it, and we have been to the gym, and it has been difficult for us to go, and we have had excuses, and we've finally gone, do you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. And then you have done it, and you come out of it, you're buzzing. You are, I mean, okay, maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe you're not buzzing straight away, you know, and it's probably like 5 minutes after you like got your breath back, and maybe you're walking out the door, and you get a little kick in your step, like, oh yeah, I did that thing. Oh my God, I thought it was going to be really hard, and I actually did it. Brilliant. And it's that then goes, oh, do you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought. Of course I can go again. Like last year, I wanted to go to the Lido in Guildford. I'd never been. To say I was nervous is probably a bit of a stretch, but, you know, I didn't know the deal. I didn't know where to get changed. I didn't know what the changing rooms were like. I didn't know whether there'd be lots of really expert swimmers there, you know, that kind of stuff. Anyway, I had a week off, and that was my thing to do in the week. And I did. I went once. And sure, once I was in the habit, I was like, oh yeah, this is easy. You know, I know that I pack this and I take that shampoo and whatever. And this year, we're now in July, and I haven't gone yet because I'm like, I've got out of that. Oh, what do I need to pack again? But I know once I go the first time, it'll be like, oh God, what have I been waiting for? I could have just gone. It's not the end of the world, but I just now need to fit it back into my routine, and, you know, that kind of thing. So always have faith that once you've done the thing, you get so much, you feel rewarded afterwards because you've done it, and which leads you to feel capable to do it again. And who doesn't want to feel capable? So if you've got some of those friends around you who are, I did this, I did that, it might feel like they're bragging, but honestly, they just want you to say well done. And I assure you, if you go and do the thing, they will probably be some of the first people to say well done to you, and you'll feel pretty bloody good about that. Let me share screen again. So I'm going to move on to my second point. I wonder if I'm rattling through this a bit quick. Okay. So it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to live better. Now, sometimes, I mean, initially, here in my notes, what I'm saying is this happens no matter what level of fitness you're at, whether you are starting from ground zero or you feel like you've got nothing and you're starting from nothing, or whether you're an elite athlete and you're just trying to get that little bit more, that little bit better to make the GB squad or get the gold medal or win the cup, whatever it is. It's often the margins. You know, if someone's great at tennis, they can be great at tennis, like Arthur Ferry, that was, you know, everyone's lips at the minute with Wimbledon. That's not really the people that we're talking about for this, because they're highly motivated, but they still have to do that little bit. There's always a little bit more that they sort of have to do. Whereas when so you're working at your base is what I'm thinking about, really. So Arthur Ferry's base is wherever it is. My base is over here, wherever it is, and somebody else's is over here. Now, wherever you start and wherever you're trying to get to, there's always a gap. And anything that you can do to fill that gap, it is worth filling. Now, let's put Arthur Ferry to one side, because he's going to make loads of money. And we're just here in our everyday lives trying to feel better when we, walk to the shops or run around with our children or play games in the park with our friends. I don't know, adult PE day, what have you. That's what CrossFit feels like sometimes. And quite often, if people have come from a place of pain, they can, or if you're feeling unsure, you feel like you have to for some reason you feel like you look around to see what other people are doing. Great. What are they achieving? How are they doing it? How are they keeping themselves fit? And you might like what you see or what they're doing, but then you realize they're doing it, I don't know, 5 times a week, and they're getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go. And you're thinking, I can't do that. My body won't let me do that. And it's not a case of, well, there's no point you trying, which I understand why we feel like that sometimes. But there absolutely is a point in you trying, because the not doing anything at all is what is worse, because then there's no improvement. And in terms of muscle decline and cardiovascular health, it will just naturally decline as we age anyway, regardless. So it's just down here. Whereas if we do something, this downward trajectory can be a bit slower, not quite as deep. So depending on your starting point, doing 2 sessions a week, whether that be 2 gym sessions or 2 walking sessions, don't underestimate it, because you'll be really surprised about what it is actually doing for you. And often in our heads, we feel like things are harder than they are. But once we start, once we have a go, it often doesn't, it's often not that bad. Now, we might have past expectations about exercise, what we did before, and that may fuel how we feel about them now. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter what you did before, it's what can you do today? And if you can do 10% more than you were doing yesterday, well done, good job. Sorry, I'm just checking my notes to make sure I'm on track. So yeah, I wanted to share an example with you, which I already have. It's my swimming example. But in this context, so at the moment, I've been doing CrossFit twice a week, but I do more strength-based stuff. It's just what I prefer. It's what my body prefers. So I turn up and do lots of lift. Yeah, like I lift heavy bars. And depending on who you compare me to, they're not that heavy, but to someone else, they might seem really heavy. So try not to think too much one way or the other. I do a lot of, my focus is strength training with the time that I have. But I know that I would like my cardiovascular fitness to be better. So for me, doing an extra swim session or maybe a run session a week is going to make a difference to my cardiovascular health and my resilience to training. So I'm wondering what would make a difference to you. Maybe you already walk the dog 5 days a week, twice a day. I'm thinking about my mum. But she up until a year or so ago, maybe 2 years, she didn't have any strength training in her life whatsoever. Sure, lifting the occasional heavy bag of shopping or dog food or what have you, but that's incidental. It's not enough. And she was got diagnosed with osteopenia, which is the precursor to osteoporosis. So she needed to do some bone strengthening activity. Obviously, I badgered her. I'm her daughter. I made her go in. But she chose the thing she wanted to do. And so she goes strength training once a week. And it's done wonders for her. She hasn't had the retake of the DEXA scan, so we don't know if it's improved her osteoporosis, osteopenia. But we know that it has improved her balance. We know that she feels better for doing it, that she feels more confident. The thing that she noticed the most was her balance. She'd started to feel a little bit more wobbly and nearly falling over in situations where you shouldn't or you wouldn't normally. And for that, she now it doesn't cross her mind, and she does feel better. And that's only once a week. So it really doesn't have to be much. It really never has to be 5 days a week. If someone came to me, not with serious mental health issues, but, low mood, low self-esteem, perhaps they have some kind of neurodivergency going on, they might come to me and say, Rachel, I need to exercise 5 days a week. But we can manage the intensity. It doesn't need to be wildly intense. So if there's a reason why you need to do it 5 days a week, okay, let's work towards that. But honestly, get that idea, if it is indeed in your head, get it out of your head, because it really, you can't go from here to here in terms of training frequency or intensity. Doing anything, honestly, will make a difference. And that leads me on really nicely, actually, to the third point, which is the surprise is real and really worth noticing. In the moment, in the moment we think, oh, I can't, I don't want to go, it's too hard, or, sorry, I'm just trying to, I wasn't sharing my screen with you, right. That was a waste of time. So the surprise is real and worth noticing, because, yes, what I was saying was, when you go to the class, whether it's the first class or the 10th class, there's always that period of time. There'll always be that week where you think, I really can't be asked to go, don't want to go. Now, if you're genuinely unwell or an injury is flaring up, there are times when it's okay not to go. I'm just talking about the run-of-the-mill times. And actually just to go, because that is the hardest bit. And if you can sort of dig around in that, get that fixed, make sure you keep going, then over time you will just see improvements that you are so pleased with that you will just not want to look back. Now, for me, my example is that I joined CrossFit Motion in Guildford about a year ago, and my cardiovascular health was, in my words, on its knees. I knew it was bad. I used to have great cardiovascular health. So, I used to be able to run. I rode for the best part of 20 years, and there is a shed load of cardio work in that. Can't get away from it. So I used to be really fit. I didn't necessarily feel fit at the time, but I probably was. And then health reasons around COVID time, not necessarily COVID, my asthma and my allergic rhinitis just got wildly out of hand, and it meant that I fell out of the habit of doing cardio. It happens. And so I knew it was really bad, and I sort of wanted to do something about it. No one really wants to do cardio training, but I wanted to feel better than I did. And so I went into CrossFit, and I won't lie, there was a little bit of shame in there when I realised that I just really was quite far away from what I used to be able to do. And it was disappointing. I also knew that I just needed to carry on. There was no way, it wasn't going to get better by itself. It wasn't just going to miraculously improve. So I was like, I'm just going to have to put up with this. I'm just going to have to go week in, week out, and just do my best. Anyway, I was in that zone, and I was doing that. And a couple of weeks ago, the gym had their special 3-year anniversary workout. So everyone was invited, regardless of what package you're on or who you were. And you went along, and we did 4 workouts. And by the end of it, I was tired. Everyone was tired. We were all been sweating. It was a hot day. It was hard, it was hard work. But I was really chuffed that I'd been able to keep up. We were working in teams of 4, and I'd been able to hold up my end of the bargain. I'd been able to do my share of the exercise that was being asked of us. And whilst I was tired and I was hot and sweaty, I was breathing hard the same as everyone else. I didn't feel completely done in. Now, some people say I didn't work hard enough, blah, blah, blah. It was a fun event. And what I'm trying to say is I felt really good that I could keep up, because a year ago, I would have really struggled. And all right, it's a year in the making, but my God, it's been, it's worth it. And it hasn't been that much. It might have been a long time, but it hasn't been much. The sessions that I go to are predominantly strength-based. They have a little bit of cardio in them. So for me to accrue that sort of reassurance and improvement over that time, I'm really pleased with. Equally, one of my clients, she doesn't mind me sharing her story. Her name is Ellie. She had very serious, very involved knee reconstructive surgery, we'll call it, after a very severe dislocation that she experienced could be 10 years ago. It's a long-term issue. She's had multiple interventions. This was the final one. She's been seeing a physio for the very initial post-rehab surgery with him. It's gone well. She's come to work. It's time to move on a step. So she's come to work with me. So she has gone from someone who was walking with crutches every single day. She's not even old. She's in her 20s, She, I hope I hope I didn't offend anyone by that sentence. I'm just saying it can happen to anyone, anytime. And it can be anything, but this is her story. So she was on crutches, she's off her crutches, and she was coming to me, and we were starting with sit to stands. You can do sit to stands from very high box, and then the lower the box gets, the harder they become. So we had her on a box that was getting her knee at a 90-degree angle, maybe just above. And for her, that was a big deal. But if I'd have given that to someone else, certainly if I'd have given it to Arthur Ferry, he'd have been like, what the hell, this is too easy. But for her, it was a mountain, but it was a massive achievement. And she'd done it. And we're moving her on progressively. And so what I'm saying is that it really doesn't take much to make a difference. And those differences can mean the absolute world to you. And that's really important. And then my last example is from when I was working at the Nuffield Health Gym. And I was running their joint pain program. People were in pain from osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, gout, any kind of chronic long-term pain that wasn't going to be fixed solely by medication. I mean, medication can help, but something like osteoarthritis, there really isn't any medication that will treat the condition. There are painkillers, yes. It's wear and tear. Is pathology the right word? Not sure. There's nothing that can be done. It just has to be looked after. And people were coming twice a week, and they were nervous, and they were apprehensive, and they wasn't sure it would work. Which is completely understandable. They had tried things before, and they came along, and everybody was really surprised. It was 2 hours, 1 hour, twice a week. There was a talking section for about 15-20 minutes, and the rest of it was based around exercise. And they were really surprised by actually how exercise could be modified, and they could find things that they could do, and then the things that they were doing accumulated over 12 weeks, so not that long really, 3 months. It is a commitment, but it's not a year or anything, it's 3 months. And by the end of it, 9 out of 10 times, I won't say every time because that's someone will come back to me and say it didn't work, but a lot of the time people gained some kind of benefit out of it. And we talked a lot about lifestyle factors, but what people were finding was perhaps their sleep improved, which meant their ability to be able to tolerate and manage their pain improved. Invariably, they then had better relationships with the people around them, their husband, their children, their close friends. They felt more motivated because they weren't struggling with pain, because they were beginning to be able to tolerate it. They were able to come back. Now, this took a couple of weeks initially, don't get me wrong. And then they started to feel better and feel good about themselves. So it really just doesn't take much to see an improvement, especially if for them, it was, like I said, it was 3 months, 2 sessions a week. And people moved better. They walked out a bit taller. Their knees invariably had, depending on what was wrong with what they came with, knees were moving more. They felt more confident to be able to walk around, because quite often joint pain just makes people feel really hesitant about moving too much because they don't know what is and what isn't going to cause them pain. So this is where finding the right level for you, what's appropriate for you, where are you at the moment, take yourself from there and start to do a few bits. And then when that feels okay, go again. Okay, I'm here. What can I do that's a bit more? And that also gives you a bit of a plan and a bit of a focus. So sometimes we don't need the plan first. We need to take the action to see where we're at. And then that fuels our motivation and keeps us going. So I guess what I'm saying is this week, is there one thing that you can do? Not a plan, not a commitment to overhaul your everything, just one thing. A walk, a stretch, a session, whatever feels possible, on the precipice of possible for you right now. And just notice what happens. Just let yourself do it. A couple of weeks, 4 weeks on the trot, see what happens. It might just be a mental health thing improves. It might be a physicality thing that improves. It might be a mood, whatever it is. Just take a moment to notice. Let yourself do it and then see if you can notice. So I think that's me done. I do run an online class. I do have a slide for it, but I'm not going to share a screen again. I do run a cardio online class. So if you'd like to know more about that, please reach out in whichever way you can. But next time I'll be doing this, which is probably be in a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about how your body talks to you and why most of us have learned to ignore it. So we'll see how that goes. But I hope you found today useful. If you have any questions off the back of it, please reach out and ask. If you think I've said something really untoward, I'm in two minds. You can reach out, tell me about it, but also maybe not. So yeah, constructive feedback, always welcome. So I hope this has been a good listen and that you have a really good rest of the week. I shall leave it there.